good to see you guys back. Anyway, remember the 5 keywords we talked about last week? So, okay, so this is a class schedule, and I guess you could probably just see week 3, and that's Korean culture. We'll do Korean culture today, and we'll do one more week of Korean culture next week, okay? And it's just gonna be, we talked about introduction to Korea in numbers, what is culture, 5 keywords, today and next week, okay? So, we're gonna have fun. Don't feel like we have to cover everything that I have prepared, okay? I think one mistake we could make is always trying to finish something, right? When it's better to actually, explore, give ourselves a leisure pace, right? Okay, symbols. Well, symbol is, of course, anything that meaningfully represents something else, and you're all familiar with this. I think the world's best known symbol is perhaps this symbol of heart, right? And there's a rose, dove, tree, owl for wisdom and intuition. What a beautiful animal, right? It's so cute. Don't you find owls to be cute? No? No? Just me? Okay. And then we have all these symbols for various religions, right? So I'm sure you're most familiar with this, and perhaps next is Islam, and swastika is associated with Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism, okay? So I think it's had the very bad luck of being associated with Nazism, but if you could distance that symbol from Nazism, of course it's not a bad symbol in any way, right? And we have other familiar symbols here. So smile, symbol for medicine, anarchist, chemical, biohazard, right? And so on. And also you have also all these symbols that you probably have seen at the airport, at the subway station, or whatever the case may be, right? So I showed you those as a precursor to this question. Can you think of any Korean symbols? Yes. 태극. Very good. 태극. Tai Chi in Chinese. Okay? What else? Tiger. Very good. Tiger. Anything else? Why are you guys sitting so far away from the stage or from me? We have 2, tiger, 태극. Anyone else? Let's just try to come up with 5. Is kimchi a symbol of Korean culture? Again, when I say symbol, at least in the context of this class, it's a symbol. It qualifies as a symbol if it has a meaning. So that's why hanbok, Korean traditional attire, does not count. Yes, it's Korean, but do you learn anything about Korean just by knowing that they wear hanbok? Of course not. It's just, if it carries any meaning, hanbok that you're familiar with is a very, very class-linked sort of phenomenon, because the colorful hanbok was worn only by aristocrats, noble class. Okay, so if you're into this equality thing, it's a shitty thing, you know. Again, I don't wear it. I don't have it. I detest it because again, the class inequality during the Joseon Dynasty was really terrible. I mean, we had slaves, believe it or not, okay, where like up to a third of the population were slaves, okay, and just by looking at what people wore, you could tell what class people belong to, okay. So Hanbok carries this, for me at least, like a baggage. Anyway, we have two, no more? Okay. So out of all the symbols, I have picked the, at least in my view, most important ones. Taeguk, Taegukgi, Korean flag. I mean, it's so prominently featured in the flag that our flag is called Taegukgi, meaning flag of Taeguk, right? Literally speaking. Third, Samtaeguk, three-way Taeguk, okay? Fourth, Mugunghwa, the national flower, unofficially, okay? Fifth, tiger. Sixth, swastika. Seven, the cross. Why? Because number one religion in Korea now is Christianity, okay? So I'll go one by one, okay? Some rather long, some short. Well, Taeguk first. You're familiar with the symbol, right? So the original Taeguk is vertical, sort of a wavy, sort of a division, whereas in Korean flag, it's horizontal, right? And so please look this up, because I cannot do justice to the depth or profundity of this philosophy, okay? Taeguk, or Tai Chi, okay? Look it up, please. And so look up this, or yin and yang, okay? Yin and yang is so deep, okay? You just gotta have more understanding of this, okay? Again, I cannot do justice by sharing with you a few slides I have about yin and yang, okay? So, the principle of yin and yang represents the balance of opposites in the universe, okay? So here we go. The yin and yang philosophy says that the universe is governed by a cosmic duality, sets of two opposing and complementing principles or forces of dark and light, fire and water, the sun and the moon, male and female. The list is endless. War and peace, life and death, left and right, high and low. What else is there? Love and hatred, tall, short, long, short. It just, again, it could refer to opposites that you find in nature or opposite sets of opposites in society, in culture, okay? So, generally speaking, yin is characterized as an inward energy that is feminine, still, dark, and negative. Yang, on the other hand, is characterized as outward energy, masculine, active, bright, and positive. Okay? So, in the hope and in the belief that you will look this up, I will move on to the next slide. So, yin and yang philosophy describes, one second, how obviously opposite or contrary forces may actually be complementary, interconnected, and interdependent in the natural world. And here's an example. For example, male and female. If there are only women or men in a group, can there be a next generation? For the group to survive onto the next generation, both men and women are needed, right? Now, you know how, okay, I'll ask this question in the next slide, okay? And yin and yang also argues that the opposites make things complete. So one of the gentlemen over there, can I find a volunteer? The man closest to me? You could simply answer my question. Could the life of a man be complete without women? Yes or no? No, as an overall experience, as a man, could you say that if you're heterosexual, could your life be complete without the existence of the opposite, women? Well, that's good enough. I think he's too deep. I just needed a simple answer to my question. Now, a lady here, could a life of a woman be complete without men? Okay. Actually, this is a nice time to have a little fun time because, you know, let's say I'm speaking to a group of men and women in their 40s or 50s. When I ask this question to men, they all say impossible. You know, when I ask the same question to women in their 40s and 50s, they all say yes, no problem. It's like I've had enough with these men. And when they say men, they're talking about their husbands, right? Anyway, please look up 태극, yin and yang. So I have some visual images for your visual pleasure. Okay? So as you notice, within yin or yang, there's yin. Opposite within opposite. That's the point I'm trying to make. Okay? Isn't it nice? Just me? You notice the peninsula? Okay? Amazing stuff. Okay, second, 태극기, the Korean flag. So, 태극 is here, and I think a lot of people have some questions about these sets of bars, right? So this is another thing I want you to look up. 팔괘 or bagua. Okay? It's in the internet. Wikipedia has a nice entry. Okay? Bagua. It's Chinese. And you see, this is like a figure for 태극. In the middle, there's a 태극, right? And you see these sets of bars? There are 8 of them. And our ancestors picked 4 out of 8. Okay? So, again, if you type 태극 or bagua, you get tons of these results. Okay? You gotta look it up. Okay? Because with this, Chinese in the antiquity try to make sense of the world, okay, of the universe. And to some extent, they also try to predict the future courses of events, okay? So a Korean flag could have easily looked like this, right? Because if we used all 8 trigrams, that's what the Korean flag would have looked like, okay? Now, did you know that Korean government is receiving, what do you call that when someone royalty? I'm just kidding. But it's just totally similar, right? And this flag, at the time, 2002 FIFA World Cup, held the Guinness record as the world's largest flag. But that flag caused so much trauma for me. You know why? I paid over $500 for this game, and my seat was somewhere around here, and the flag was never removed for the whole game. And I was just stuck. I couldn't move for the whole 2.5 hours. Isn't that amazing? Talk about trauma. That's trauma caused by a flag. I call it flag trauma. Number 3, 삼태극, three-way 태극. And have you seen this anywhere? Fans, yes. And it comprises of blue, the sky, red, earth, white or yellow, human being. So they coexist in peace. There's no beginning or end. It marks an infinity. Each is a whole in itself while a part of each other. Okay? You know what this is? It's a Dharma will. It's the will of truth in Buddhism. Okay, remember the swastika that I showed you? That's one symbol of Buddhism. This is another symbol of Buddhism. And right at the center, you see three-way 태극, right? And this is another way that this Dharma will is drawn. All inspired by this one symbol. Is there any connection to, is this totally like wholly original, or do you think it has been inspired by somehow? I'm not saying it's Korean inspired, because this is not Korean. This is from, let's say, Tibetan Buddhism, Buddhism outside of Korea. Okay? So, have you heard of this saying that art is an imitation of something that it has existed? Right? Something like that, right? So I think the person who made this, I'm sure, saw this somewhere at least. Okay? At least in dream. Okay, and every Korean government and agency now uses this symbol. Okay? And for the Seoul Olympics, 1988, the upper part, 삼태극. And do you guys take subways? Each and every transfer station is marked by 삼태극. Okay, number 4. 무궁화, Rose of Sharon. That's what the flower looks like, 무궁화. And it's the national flower of Korea. And it has a nice name that sort of reflects what Korean culture is about. Okay? So here we go. You know, flowers all have different characteristics, and 무궁화 supposedly is a very strong flower when it comes to like cancer of flower. It's better withstands the attack, and it's again it's a very so-called strong flower, and that is reflected in the name, right? 무궁화 means immortality. So why do we like the name of the flower, and why do we accept it as a national flower? Because look at Korea. It was invaded numerous times. We're not talking about a handful of times or a dozen of times, dozens of times. And at times, foreign forces occupied Korea for decades. Okay? The latest one being the Japanese occupation of Korea for 36 years. Okay? And yet, Korea has been able to preserve, maintain its cultural continuity. Okay? So, at least when it comes to Korean culture, we have this sense of immortality, like the flower. Okay? That's why 무궁화 has been accepted as an unofficial national flower. Okay? And so, because we love this flower, it is mentioned in the national anthem. It is featured in the emblem of the president. It is featured in the flags of the government, army, and police. It is featured in the insignias of the army and the police. All right? So I have some images to show you. Also, it is featured in the National Medals of Merit. And here we go. This is the emblem of the president. There's the Rose of Sharon. This is the presidential seal. There you go. And this one, sort of the awards given by the president, and this one by the prime minister, and so on. This is the Presidential Security Service, right here. This is the official flag of the government of the Republic of Korea until 2016. Okay? And the National Assembly, right at the center, there's Rose of Sharon. And this is the flag of the Army. National Police, right here. And the National Medal of Merit. So you can see how even Koreans do not really know that Rose of Sharon is used this much. And I could have included more, but I just wanted to limit myself to a few examples. Okay? Number 5, sort of symbol is the tiger. It represents the values of vigor, courage, dignity, fierceness, and chivalry. Sounds like Andrew Kim. Well, there's that beautiful animal. You know, whenever I hear about animals being endangered, on the verge of going extinct, really saddens me. I think it comes with age. You guys are like, so what, kind of, right? But you get a little bit older, you really appreciate these beautiful animals, and we're killing them. Why? We're taking away their habitats. Okay, that's the number one reason. Okay, that they're being endangered. Okay. Koreans looked at tiger with 2 different perspectives. One, they were seen as brave, dignified, and fierce, but also respected as a symbol of good luck and protection from disease. And I have a very nice figure. This is the Korean Peninsula, right? In the shape of the tiger. And in the shape of the tiger, and what is this? It's tiger poo. I'm just kidding. That's Jeju Island. Did I mention about how you guys should make sure that you should visit Jeju Island, right? So, well, maybe we should wait till springtime. Okay? and try to go on weekdays. Don't skip class, but like leave on Wednesday maybe. Okay. Tiger was the mascot for 1988 Summer Olympics. I don't know if this probably the only time in the history of world sports where the same animal was featured twice in the Olympic as the Olympic mascot. Okay, so in 2018, tiger along with the bear. Okay, I have both like stuffed animal. This one is actually cuter. Personal opinion, of course. And Korea University and foreign students, make sure you buy one of these shirts with Korea University. Why should you buy one? It's cheap. It's only $10. Not even $10. I'm sure you back home, it's probably about $30, right? More than that? Total rip-off. So you gotta buy more than one then, man. Okay. Next is swastika. The name comes from Sanskrit, language of ancient India, and it denotes conducive to well-being or auspicious. So good luck. It simply means good luck. And so it's a symbol of good luck, prosperity, abundance, and eternity. However, this symbol appears as a decorative sign in various cultures since at least the Neolithic era. You get my point? Okay, only in modern era you have this symbol being associated with like Nazism, but before, from like 10,000 years ago, it was simply a decoration without any meaning. Okay, so look at this. It's too small for you to read, but there are all these different cultures' names, right? Like Iran, Italy, Israel even, Japan, Ethiopia, all have made use of this symbol. Again, without any meaning, just a decoration, okay? Same here. So for examples, these are swastika seals from the Indus Valley civilization. It's preserved at the British Museum. This is a necklace from Iran, okay? And this is a pendant from Italy, okay? This is ancient Roman mosaics of La Olmeda, Spain. This is a mosaic swastika in excavated church in Israel. And this is a swastika symbol carved on the window in Ethiopia. Okay? And there are two ways to draw. In Korea, we use only this. But in China, they use both. But in countries like Thailand, they don't use any symbol. Okay? So it depends on the country, where some Buddhist countries use particular symbols, some don't. This is, believe it or not, a temple in Gangnam. It's just a totally modern, not even a Buddhist symbol. It's just, but you know it's a temple because you have stone statues, and there's a name of the temple. Okay. And what about this? Have you seen any one of these while walking around? And what impression did you get? There's a temple? Who resides there? the ones who are using that symbol are shamans. Okay? So that's a fortune-telling place. So if you want to drop in for a fortune-telling, go ahead. You'll be kicked out. No English, no English. Okay? So but again, it's a fortune teller place. Okay? And the thing about fortune tellers in Korea is this: you walk in and you tell them your problem, or you ask them to look into your future, and if they read something terrible, so you've been having this terrible luck because whatever, right? There are two major things that could happen. Three things. One, the fortune teller will give you some advices. Do this and do that, and your luck will change. That's the nicest way out. Second is, there's a spirit that is sort of blocking your path to happiness or success. So you have to change your name. And the fortune teller will tell you what that new name should be. Okay? Third, this is the worst one. Things are really bad for you if you don't. Things will get even worse unless we have a shamanistic ritual. And it'll put you behind like $20,000. Something like that, right? We're talking about a ritual where you have a drummer, you'll have to slaughter a pig or a cow just for the ritual, and the shaman dancing for a few hours. They'll try to connect with the spirit that is causing havoc in your life, right? So anyway, we'll talk more about this later, okay? How this is still happening in this totally modernized and globalized Korea, okay? Not here, of course. If you have to go through a shamanistic ritual, you have to go elsewhere, outside maybe within the capital, but like near the mountain, for example. Okay, the last one is the cross. And under faith, beliefs, I'll talk more about Christianity, but I don't know if you have seen these steeples like on top of the commercial buildings. So it says here, real estate agent, laundromat, or dry cleaning, Chinese restaurant, and so on, right? So within this kind of building, and you have many like this, right? There's one there. There are so many like this, especially inside Seoul, right? And inside, it's a very small church, very cozy, right? Used to play drum here. Just kidding. Do you see a set of drums here? Wow. The Seoul has many nicknames, but one of them is that is a city. Seoul is a city of neon crosses, okay? Or city of neon small t's. Small t. From the 5-year-old perspective, who's just learning English, okay? Or if it's a boy, city of neon swords. Okay? Now we turn to the second of 5, Korean language. Facts about language. So, I could have just easily talked about Korean language, but I think to make this more fun, I'd like to also talk about language in general before I talk about Korean phenomenon. Okay, Korean language phenomenon. Facts about language. There are more than 7,000 languages being used in the world today, okay? But this is not a complete list, as there are still many parts of the world that have not yet been fully explored, including the Amazon and the highlands of New Guinea, okay? The country with the largest number of languages spoken is, of 2019, which country do you think has the largest number of languages spoken? India. See, if I could have asked for a right answer, but this is impossible almost. It's Papua New Guinea. You know, it has a population of 8 million, but it has recognized 840 languages, followed by Indonesia with 710. A little known fact is that Indonesia has the world's either third or fourth largest population. Number 1 and 2 is, of course, China, India. Number 3 and 4 is either USA and India. Okay, third is the USA, fourth is Indonesia, I think. So it has a huge population. Nigeria is third at 524. India, fourth at 453. And here's a figure for you, okay? English and French are the only languages that are taught in every country in the world. I didn't include this, but you know, when it comes to languages that are studied the most, Korea made the top 10 now. Korean language, that is. Okay? Fourth, the most translated book in the world is? That's an easy one, right? What about the second most popular translated book? What did you say? Harry Potter. Not even close to this one. Anyone? To give you a hint, it's a children's book. That's like the third. But is that a children's book? Does it qualify as a children's book? Too deep. Anyway, the second one is Pinocchio. Oops, sorry. It is Little Prince. I got the second one and the third one mixed up. Third one is Pinocchio. And I know the reason. We need more honesty. Okay? My own interpretation. Anyway, Khmer, it's Cambodian, is the largest alphabet in the world with 74 letters. How many letters are there in English? 24, right? But they have whopping 74, and it looks like this. And Rotokas, it's an island in Papua New Guinea, has the world's smallest alphabet with just 12 letters. Some say 11. They use English alphabets, and they write everything just using these 12 English alphabets. Okay? Now turning to facts about the Korean language. In terms of the number of native speakers or first language speakers, Korean is the 15th most spoken language in the world. Isn't this surprising? Yes or no? Again, when it comes to the number of native speakers or first language speakers, you always have to qualify that, right? Because if you just talk about the total number of speakers, Korean does not make it to top 20, okay? But again, when it comes to native speakers, 15th most spoken language in the world. And how do we get how do we get to be 15th most spoken language? I'm missing some numbers here. Anyway, there are over 81 million Korean speakers, 49 million in South Korea, 25 million in North Korea, and 7.4 million overseas. Okay? And where do they live? Just for fun. Largest number of Koreans living outside of Korea live in the USA. Over 2.6 million Koreans living in the USA. Number 2 is China, which used to be number 1 when it came to the number of Koreans living outside of Korea. Okay, but there are hundreds of thousands of Korean Chinese who now live in Korea to work. Okay. Third is Japan, and so here we have sort of a sad history because during the Japanese colonial period, millions of Koreans were taken overseas as like forced laborers, including to Japan, and many of them stayed behind. Rather than coming back home, they stayed back, and that's why they comprise, I think, the largest ethnic minority in Japan, okay? Koreans, that is. Fourth largest number of Koreans living outside of Korea are in Canada, okay? Where I lived for many years myself. So, just for fun, in terms of the first language speakers, which language is the most spoken language in the world? Yes, Mandarin, very good. So there you go. This is Mandarin, number 1. Number 2, it's not English, it's Spanish. Number 3, English. Number 4, Portuguese. And write down Korean. So when it comes to first language speakers, there are more Korean speakers than French speakers, believe it or not. Now that really qualifies as a believe it or not question, doesn't it? Okay. Now, in the similar vein, in terms of the total number of speakers, which language is the most spoken language in the world today? Of course, it's English, 1.45 billion, followed by Mandarin at 1.12 billion, Hindi at 622 million, and so on. So in the top 10, there's no Korean. Okay. Okay, second fact about Korean language, like Japanese, the Korean language is influenced by the Chinese language in the form of Sino-Korean words. Okay? You know, words we use, like for example, university. In Korean is 대학교. Library, 도서관. They're exactly the same words from China that we just simply pronounce in Korean ways and write in Hangul. But they originate from Chinese. Okay? So about 60% of words we use are from Chinese. Okay? 35% native Korean words, like 사랑해요. That's Korean, purely Korean. Okay? And 5% loan words from other languages, especially English, like computer, taxi, cola, wine, coffee, champagne. I'm surprised nobody's laughing at my stupid joke. Anyway, however, there is an important difference between South Korean and North Korean vocabulary structure, as you can see here. So in South Korea, 5% foreign loan words, right? But in North Korea, foreign loan words account for only 1%. Because they make an extra effort to translate foreign words into Korean. Okay? For example, goalkeeper, that which is used in like ice hockey or soccer, we use goalkeeper, right? But in North Korea, they would use a Korean word like someone who is really protecting the door, right? Kind of. So that's the difference between North Korea and South Korea. And third fact about Korean language, phenomenon of Konglish. And here are some examples. we use handphone to refer to cell phone, self-service, sign, signature. Is this universal where the English is not the first language? Or is this something uniquely Korean? Or more so here than elsewhere that you know? It's universal? Okay. Is there anything that you find interesting? Not really. Well, did you know that piting, it entered the Oxford Dictionary, believe it or not. Okay? Yes. Oh, I'm sure. Yes. A lot of Konglish words, I think, thanks for pointing that out, do come from Japan. Okay? Um, yes, yes. Okay. Well, we have a new word for punk. It's flat tire. Um, anyway, moving on. Fourth characteristic of the Korean language, the writing system, Hangul, is recognized as one of the simplest and yet most sophisticated writing systems in the world. Do you agree? Yes or no? If you're learning Korean, do you find it to be the simplest and yet most sophisticated writing systems? Yes or no? Do you believe? Well, this is what is said about Hangul, right? Well, let me say a few more words, okay? It was created by Sejong the Great. Now, don't be misled to believe that he actually invented the writing system. He didn't. But he's given credit because he gave order to the group of scholars. Okay? Hey guys, come up with a new writing system. So that's why he's given credit. Okay? So don't ever think that he actually sat down and came up with the writing system. Okay? Anyway, Hangul consists of 24 letters, 2 less than English alphabet. And it looks like this. Looks simple enough, doesn't it? Okay? And on cell phone, oh my God, that's all it takes to write whatever you want in Korean. Well, I like it. Yes, we have 2 different keyboard versions, but anyway. Well-known quotes pertaining to Hangul include, first, a wise man can acquaint himself with Hangul before the morning is over. A stupid man, I'm sorry for saying this, stupid man, I need to be politically correct. A little bit slow man, oh, never mind, can learn it in the space of 10 days. Okay? A foreigner can learn to write his name in Korean within an hour of learning. Is that true or not? I think it is true, right? Edwin Reischauer and J.K. Fairbank of Harvard University, quote, wrote in their book that, quote, Hangul is perhaps the most scientific system of writing in general use in any country. Yes, we didn't pay these guys to say it, okay? They voluntarily made this observation. And some linguists say it is the simplest, most logical, and most ingenious and most scientific of the world's writing systems. Okay? Hangul is argued to be the best suited for the expression of sounds in all languages. Hangul alphabets are said to be like visible speech. Why do we say that? In contrast to the English alphabet, for example, the spoken words mostly, not all, mostly sound exactly as they appear. But look at English here. Silent letters in English. This is a killer, right? Like bomb. Do you say bomb or do you just say bomb? There you go. Limba or do you say limb? There you go. What about butcher? Do you say T there or just CHER? Or how about often? I think I do hear a lot of people say often. But it should be often, right? Supposedly, it should be often. Soften. What about white? Ghost. Silent H. Silent K is the killer. Knife. Have you heard of knowledge? Enswa. Answer. Well, there's my favorite one. Champagne. Campagen. Dieseigen. Oh, it sounds almost like German. Did you know that a lot of words English words do come from French, right? Because, and German. Okay. That's right. And my favorite English word, phobias. Phobia. You see, you never know how to pronounce, right? Unless you learn it, right? Phobias. Building. tongue. Okay, never mind. And the killer is really this one. Silent N. autumne. columne. Isole. Anyway, you get the point, right? You remember when you were young, you had to memorize how to spell. Whereas in Korea, you do for some, but mostly you just listen to the sound and you just write it and it's almost correct. Usually, more so than English, okay? So, having said all these, I have a very difficult quizzes for you. Here we go. First question is, UNESCO conducted research on the most appropriate writing system for more than 2,900 languages that have only oral tradition. Which alphabet or writing system received the highest score? Wow! How did you guess this very difficult question? Well, the next one is even more difficult, okay? Quiz number 2. In a study conducted by the Linguistics Department at Oxford University, which alphabet or writing system received the highest score in terms of rational structure, scientific accuracy, uniqueness, and practicality? Oh, my God. Sorry to be, do I sound overly nationalistic or whatever? I'm just surprised by this whole thing, like you. Anyway, it's Hangul. I didn't make this up, okay? All right. Now, turning to something more interesting, okay? Have you heard this before? Have you seen this before? Sapir-Whorf hypothesis? Okay, it goes like this. These linguists argued that the way people think, their worldview, is strongly affected by the language they speak. This is, you could all agree with this point, right? What that means is that, in a nutshell, people who speak different languages see the world differently. Does that make sense to you too? Now, what is your language? English? Spanish? Do you know any Korean? And you're, of course, excellent in English too, right? So let's say you're bilingual. Do you really see things differently when you speak English and when you speak Spanish? I mean, really, do you see a real difference? The reason I asked that question is this. When these linguists made these arguments and observations, they did not base their arguments on these main languages. How many languages are there in the world again, roughly? Over 7,000. So these kinds of arguments are based on observations of languages that are spoken by like a few thousand. That's when things are really different. Okay? I mean, we may use different terms for certain things, but language tend to be really different in terms of how many speakers there are. Okay? So, well, again, I think it's safe to say that people who speak different languages see the world differently. And I think a good example would be, when I speak English with whomever, the language relationship that I have with another English speaker is horizontal. But when I speak Korean, it's hierarchical, right? Someone I'm speaking to, if that person is older than me, I use honorific, right? And a student, for example, when he or she talks to me in Korean, very hierarchical, okay? But when we speak in English, it's horizontal, okay? So I think when it comes to language, English is a language of democracy, I think. It's equal, right? Anyway, just to give you an idea, more idea as to how like vocabulary influences the way we think, and also at the same time, it reflects what things are important and what are not, okay? So here's an example of Hopi, Native American tribe, and please don't ever call them Indian. I don't think there's any other way you could hurt them than to call them Indian. Because that Columbus guy, anyway, never mind. Anyway, Hopi, they have just one word, Masaitaka, which literally means flying things, to refer to flying insects, planes, and even pilots. It's amazing, isn't it? And the Aztecs had only one word for snow, frost, ice, and cold. And they tended to see all these as the same. Okay? The Kuocw of South India do not distinguish among snow, fog, and dew, but their language distinguishes 7 types of bamboo. We're not talking about different types of bamboo. You know how we have different names for different kinds of apple? They just simply have different nouns in terms of the different stage of growth or whatever the case may be. Okay? Bamboo. In Korean, now how many terms are there in English for rice? Or in Spanish? 1, right? But did you know that we have 3 terms? Pyo for rice in the field. Sal for harvested rice but uncooked. And pap for cooked rice. Okay? And to continue, in Somali, there are 46 words relating to camels, including those 4, all these. In Somalia, camel traditionally is a symbol of wealth. And also, they depended much on camels for survival. Okay? For meat, for milk, okay? And also, it is said, I don't know if this is true, that half of all camels in Africa are found in Somalia. And that's how much camels are valued, okay? And in Inuit, for Inuits, okay, there are 5 to 100 words associated with snow, although they don't have a single term for snow. But there are examples like this. There's a term for snow on the ground, fresh snow, softly falling snow, fallen snow, drifting snow, soft, deep snow, snow that is good for driving sled, snow used for making recreational snowballs. Okay? I think there's also a term for snow that appears in your dream. Actually, I made that up. Anyway, how do you explain all these? Here we go. I don't know if you could read this, but cultures lexicalize. They make words for phenomena and things that are important to them. Okay? For example, because rice is not a staple food of people in the West, they just have one word. You know, that's good enough. But for racists in Asia, they all place so much emphasis on rice. So that's why they make distinctions. Okay? And that's why, you know, Somalis, camels, very important. What about for Inuits? The condition of snow is very important for their survival. Okay? So that they don't, get trapped in snow. And also, when they go out hunting, they have to know the condition of snow. So that's why they have so many terms for snow. Okay? And you can find so many other examples as well, but I just limited myself to just a few examples. But as you say here, all languages find a way to say what they need to say. Powerful statement. Okay? And before I move on, is there anything in your own language, whether it's Spanish or any language that you speak, that has some unique characteristic you could share? All right. Okay, moving on. Even the color spectrum is dissected in different ways by different languages. Did you know that, again, how many cultures are there in the world? 10,000, right? Many cultures still distinguish two colors. Essentially, white and black, or dark and light. Okay? And our sense of colors did begin with those two colors. And did you know that until the 19th century, most cultures distinguished only a handful of colors? Black, white, red, yellow, green. So colors evolved with industrialization because we were able to mix different colors to come up with these artificial colors. Okay? Because the colors that are new, they were created new. Okay? They don't really exist in nature, for example. Okay? The first Crayola crayons were offered for sale in 1903. They only had 8 colors. And you grew up using what? 30 colors? 50 colors? 100? Right? But never like 8, right? No? Come on, tell me something. What crayons did you grow up using? 20. Anyone with 30, 50? All right, keeping in mind that the idea that language shapes how we view the world and that language reflects the core values of the speakers, let's talk about some of the characteristics of the Korean language. All right? Now, before I show you what I have, can you tell me, by learning Korean and using Korean, did you notice anything unique or different? Strange? Yes. Just being gender neutral. Well, if that's true, I don't have it included here. Can you think of any reason why that is the case? Is it in any way related to sexism in Korean language?
Maybe, but I feel like Korean language takes more of a focus on like educated formality level and how it's where it's not like less important. I don't know.
No. You know, this is an issue that I've never thought about, but with her comment, it makes me think now, if Korea is one of the few languages where in typical conversations we don't make gender distinctions, maybe, you know how we use, in English, men, right, was used to refer to both genders, right? Now, if we simply do not make distinctions, and Korea being a rather male-dominant society for millennia, is it possible that the gender distinction was not made because it was given that everything was a reference to male? It's a possibility, but very good point. It's something I'll explore. Anyway, any other observations? Yes. Even myself. I mean, at least, I use it correctly, perhaps, but for me to explain the difference, it's another matter, right? Just gotta keep on using. Mm. Mm. Okay, without me responding to your comment. Anyway, students at Nanjing University, when I asked about the qualities of the Korean language that they find interesting, a student mentioned that Korean language does not really make a gender distinction in conversations and so on. And my response was, is it possible that that is linked to how Korean language tend to be male dominant, sexist? Okay, I'll talk more about that later. Any other qualities? Yes. Okay. Another student just mentioned that Korean language predominantly uses pronoun our instead of my when referring to things like our country, our class, our university, and so on, instead of my. That never is used. Yes. So again, that's another good one. If in Korean we omit subject, right, like I, you, kind of, is it possible that that happens because we're a collectivistic society where you and I do not matter? Okay, make sort of distinctions made as to like you or me do not really figure into the overall scheme of things when it comes to conversation. Just an idea that I came up with since you mentioned it. Two things I'm taking away from this class: the omission of subject and the non-distinction of gender. Wow. Deep. All right. All right. Any other? Yes. Something easy. Hmm? Yeah. Yes, yes. I think that's related to the omission of subject, kind of. Yeah. That is too abrupt. It violates harmony. Anyway, let's. Well, I'm surprised that nobody mentioned this. Honorifics. Do you think that more languages have honorifics or not? They don't have honorifics. They do. Practically every language has honorifics. And why do we say that? Because honorifics include these titles of respect, like Mr., Mrs., Doctor, Professor, Reverend. Which language does not have this, right? So when you know that honorifics include these, it is safe to say that every language has honorifics. But, so the difference is not one of kind, but one of degree. Okay? Because, that's like a very minor, minimal use of honorifics, right? But look at Korean. In Korean language, we have separate verbs, separate nouns, depending on the level of respect that you want to show, right? So here's one example. Well, there are 6 levels of honorifics, one reserved exclusively for monarchy, like kings. Okay, we don't use that anymore. But, if you watch historical dramas, to say thank you, it would be like, to say thank you to the king, it would be like, 잠깐만, 너무. In English translation, it's like, thank you. Right? So anyway, if you want to say go in English, to friends, you say 가. If you want to show a little bit of respect, 가요. And if you want to show more respect, 가세요. And if you want to be rude, don't say no. You show your finger. Just kidding. You get the point, right? Again, it's not. So in Korean, we have not only titles, which we use to show respect, but we use different nouns, different verbs to show different levels of honorifics. Okay? And violation of the rules of honorifics in Korea is unthinkable. And I mean this. If a Korean wants to get locked up in a mental hospital to take a rest, all he has to do is to run into any stranger and don't use honorifics. And that's it. Just you do that for like a couple of hours, someone will call police. That guy is crazy. Okay? So that's how violation of the rules of honorifics is unthinkable. And if you ever see Koreans like having arguments over when they're drinking, that's often what's happening is that because they're drunk, they violate the honorific rule, and that just pisses anybody off, right? And when does this happen? Things are not so bad until they stay in elementary school. But it becomes strictly hierarchical from like junior high. 1 year difference, that's all that matters. Okay? And even in kindergarten, they are like asking, what month were you born? And the few months difference will also result in hierarchy sometimes. But it's more informal, right? But things get really formal, like from junior high, right? So this is my personal observation. One of the toughest professions in Korea is one of translator. So if you're watching Netflix Korean, I mean, foreign movies translated into Korean, right? You know, for example, in the U.S., let's say there's a foreign movie and television series. The translator has to determine the relationship, the hierarchical relationship. Okay? So, example, a scene in which police officers are conversing. The translator has to find out if one of the officers is higher ranked or older. And when he finds out, the honorifics are used. Okay? Whereas in English, it's like, hey, captain, what's going on? But in Korean, it'll be, 대장님, 어떠신가요? Right? Whereas the captain will say, hey, I'm doing fine. In Korean, it'll be, 나 괜찮아. Like using non-respectful terms, right? And example 2, a scene in which siblings are conversing, same thing. Younger one has to show respect linguistically. Okay? Third example, a scene in which office workers call one another by the first names in English, but in Korean they have to find out the rank. Okay? Again, in office, typically they use first name, right? But in Korean, it does not work that way. So translator has to find out the job title. Okay? And one thing that I really hate about this translation is that sometimes, it used to be, let's say up to 10 years ago, all the time, when wives spoke, we're talking about English dramas, wives used honorifics to their husbands, while husbands did not. Almost always. That just disgusted me. Because that's not reality. If you look at a typical couples, no honorifics whatsoever. My wife is 8 years younger than me. Do you think she uses honorifics to me? She has no respect for me. Anyway, we don't use honorifics, right? And it has nothing to do with respect. Maybe I'm misled to believe, I don't know. But anyway, no honorifics. And but anyway, second example or second characteristic is hierarchical worldview. And how do we know this? One thing that we know for sure is that is there anybody in this room where your culture distinguishes the rank of siblings? And you have titles? You have to have titles, like we do. 형, 오빠, 누나, right? Now, we use these terms in social settings. So, we're never equal with someone who's older than us. We're never equal with someone who has a higher rank. Okay? So that's in our language because we have these terms, right? And we use occupational titles to call each other. And that's all hierarchical. Okay? Can you believe my father-in-law calling me, hey, Professor Kim? Can you believe my friends call me Professor Kim? Not that I expect them to do, but they do that because that's cultural. Okay? So and why does that happen? I think it's sort of sublime message that hierarchy is natural. Okay? And that's what Confucius said, that equality only creates confusion. Because people are different, they have different skills, they're different. They have different levels of, maturity, knowledge, and so on. So the hierarchy is natural, he said, right? And I think we have bought into that, right? And so job titles very important. I think this title is taken forever. This dean that I am close to, former dean, right? I still call him dean, although he's like in his 80s. No longer dean, but it's always dean something, right? So occupational titles: reporter Kim, prosecutor Lee, manager Park, and so on. So given names are used only among friends who are of the same age. Same age, okay? So we find it difficult to use the term friends to people who are older than us or younger than us, because friends are supposedly same aged, okay? Third characteristic of Korean language, familistic mindset, and this is where the pronoun our comes in, okay? Rather than my, it's like, it's almost always, right? And also before that, we use these terms in social settings again. So use of these familial terms have two purposes. One is to have the sense of family. Second example is the sense of hierarchy. Okay? Like in the family, siblings have different hierarchy, right? So we are reminded of that in social setting. And also people use terms. When I ask my friend's mother about my friend's mother, let's say my friend's mother was hospitalized. I don't ask him, how's your mother? I ask him, how's mother? As if his mother is my own, okay? And on the street, you run into any, grandmother, grandpa, aged seniors. We don't use, there is no separate term to refer to strange seniors from your own grandparents. Only one term, okay? And so elderly people are generically called grandfather and grandmother, okay? Familistic. At shops and restaurants, those who are being served appearing to be in their 50s, no. I think there's a typo. Those who are serving, okay? Oh no. It's correct. So let's say you look old enough. Those who are serving will call you father, okay, or mother, okay? And those who are serving who are older looking, they're called aunt. Okay? These are trivial examples, but you know what I'm saying, right? And not surprisingly, the term country in Korean is 국가, which stems from a Chinese compound word of country plus 가, meaning a family. Okay? And country thus means an entity made up of many families, which also means that a country is an extension of the family. So I thought this is where the our pronoun comes in, but it's the next one, collectivistic mindset. Reflected in the way Koreans tend to use the pronoun our instead of my in their conversations. Examples include, as I mentioned earlier, 우리나라, 우리 학교, our school, our house, our company, our class, and our church. And again, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say my church or my school or my university. It's always our, right? And even in the case of when you're introducing your father to friends, you don't say this is my father, this is our father. and let's say I'm taken by my wife to a meeting where I'm meeting her friends for the first time, she'll say, hey, this is our husband, right? And I don't know if this is something that you, at least I want to say this to remind you, okay? Even an example like how we order names. In English, your individual name comes first, right? And last name last. But in Korea and many places elsewhere, it's the opposite, right? Last name comes first, followed by the given name. And what about the address? In Korea, you start with the biggest unit, province, city, street name, apartment name, and unit number, and the name comes last. Isn't that amazing? Whereas in the West, it's the opposite. Name comes first. So all of this reflects the individualistic perspective that is more important in the West compared to how things are in the East. All right, let me finish today's class with sort of a discussion on sexism in Korea. So other than the two examples the students mentioned, do you know any examples of sexism in the Korean language?